Welcome to Pop Culture Retro, which was recently voted the 15th best podcast by the residents of the Golden Years retirement community in Boca Raton, Florida. Each show, we'll revisit some of your favorite pop culture memories with insider and outsider perspectives. Now, please help me welcome your hosts, Ike Eisenmann and Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Pop Culture Retro. I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan Rosen, along with the esteemed Ike Eisenmann. And today we are thrilled to have with us one of the stars of the 1982 film, The Toy, as well as the beloved holiday classic, A Christmas Story, and a good friend of Ike's. Please help us welcome Scott Schwartz. Scott, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm not esteemed like Ike, but I'm here. It's okay.
Very esteemed. First, I didn't ask this to Ike. I wanted to hear it all from you on the show today. I know you and Ike are friends. I didn't ask him ahead of time. So how did you guys meet?
At a show. Did we meet at a show?
You actually we first met at a show, but you ended up contacting me kind of out of the blue because my wife Tia, who says hi, yes, by the way, she wanted to make sure you said hi. She said how did you guys meet? Do you remember? Because you better remember that story. And I feel like since you and I've been hanging out so much that I've known you for far longer than I have. But you contacted me through Facebook because you were, working the celebrity autograph convention circuit and asked me if I'd be interested. And I was like, absolutely. And I think that was the first time you and I had ever met or talked. And then, physically met you for the first time at, it was probably Chiller, New Jersey. Yeah.
I think I brought you up there before we had even met, but that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Worked. Oh man, it was a blast. And so I get a chance to personally thank you for like a nice, 2-year stint with a whole lot of fun and meeting a whole lot of people and seeing you all over the place as well as everybody else. That was all such a blast for me. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, that's how we met. So there it is.
Yes.
You'd think we worked together, but no.
I know it seems like it's been forever, but it really hasn't.
Yeah, not really. Yeah.
Well, you started acting young. When did you first start showing an interest in it? Did your parents push you into this, or something that you wanted to do?
No. It kind of happened just naturally. My dad and I were going to a film club in New York, in Manhattan. And after going there for a couple of years, being the only kid there, the youngest guy was like 25. And I wasn't even 6, but they would show the old serials, the 12-chapter serials from the 40s. And you'd see B-Westerns and you'd see regular film noir and whatever they were showing. And one of the guys in the club was producing a commercial for Yoo-Hoo chocolate drink and thought I would be good and asked. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. And he's like, yeah, it's 3 days Miami Beach with Yogi Berra of the New York Yankees. And being a lifetime Yankee fan, even as a kid, I was like, okay, I'm going. Let's go.
Wow.
And that's kind of how it started, and did the gig. And on the way back on the plane, he's like, you're great. You got to keep going. I've got a friend who's a casting director, met with her. Then she introduces the 2 agents. They both wanted to sign me. And we kind of asked her which one would be better. And I went with one and stayed there.
And you just said the one magic word that just, ruffled my feathers right off. All I took from that is Yankee fan. And that's so, I'm a Met fan. So.
Well, that's okay. It's funny because they've been doing the things about the 86 Mets lately and all this stuff, and I was actually there. I took the subway. I took the train into New York and then took the subway to Queens and went to game 6 and 7.
Did you really?
Yeah. Oh, wow. I sat all the way up in for game 7. I was in the upper deck of right field. And game 6, I was sort of just under the upper deck in right field. Listen, once anybody that goes to a game and buys a ticket with a half an hour to go is a schmuck. You wait till the game starts and then the prices come down and then you get a seat and you go in.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. That's great. Well, you beat me. Well, all right. So you did commercial work. So what other commercials did you do? Anything that we can look up that's on YouTube now?
Oh, yeah. If you look up Scott Schwartz commercials, I mean, I did over 100.
Wow.
And there's probably, 10 or 15 at least that I found on YouTube, and other people sent me links to different things. But I mean, I did just about everything there was to do, from Northern toilet paper to Burger King to like Hot Wheels. There was a place up in New York called Lionel Kitty City. I shot for them. It was actually a fun commercial with Allison Smith, who played Annie on Broadway.
Right.
So,
And
with
Kate and
her,
Alley, right?
industrials for 7-Up, with some football players, Pat Hayden, Hollywood Henderson, from the Cowboys. Got a chance to work with Dr. J, Julius Erving, on a chapstick commercial. HBO with Sugar Ray Leonard. I mean, I had quite a lot of fun.
That sounds it for sure. Now, so your very first film role that you land is The Toy, which is like a major motion picture that I mean, you break into the business with some greats. Movie directed by Richard Donner, with Richard Pryor, Jackie Gleason, Ned Beatty, also some wonderful character actors, Wilfred Hyde-White and Teresa Ganzel. So you were older already a little bit when the movie started filming. So you were aware of these people and their resumes when you started then.
Oh, sure. I mean, I was a film junkie to begin with. So, I knew who Richard was. I knew who Gleason was. Didn't really know a whole heck of a lot about Wilfred Hyde-White, but of course, Ned Beatty, I knew who he was. Teresa, didn't know much about her, when we started. I was 13 and I turned 14 while we were shooting. So, I was old enough to know who they were, their credits, their jobs. And, I was a junkie. I loved movies. I loved television.
Well, with you knowing who they were, I mean, and their resumes, did this cause any like an intimidation at all, or you just felt natural at ease when you're doing it?
The first moment of intimidation, I was in Richard Donner's office. And of course, I mean, I knew he directed Superman, but I didn't know the rest, which was phenomenal as well, from The Omen to going all the way back to Twilight Zone. But I was playing his pinball machine and Richard Pryor walked in. And Dick Donner goes, you have to stop playing for a second. There's somebody here wants to meet you. And I turned around and there was Richard Pryor. I was like, wow, just in your head, And I'm like, hi, Mr. Pryor, how are you? He goes, oh, no, you don't call me Mr. Pryor. You call me Rich, Rick, Dick. I don't care what you call me. You don't. Mr. Pryor was my dad. So it kind of set me at ease. And that really was that first and only moment of trepidation of like, oh my God. Even when I met Gleason, I was at ease. Just the situation. We were all already in Louisiana, and we were up in his presidential suite and all that stuff. And it was just a fun, wonderful meeting.
Can you tell us a little bit about the audition process? Did they have to approve you as well, or just no?
No, it was 7 regular auditions, then a video thing in New York, and then going to LA to the final, casting, to the screen test. And, things in life are very strange and weird, and why they turn out the way they turn out. Believe it or not, a big reason why I got The Toy, and this again, what I believe and what they told me afterwards and all that, was the movie Airplane. Believe it or not.
How is this?
Well, Richard was supposed to be at my screen test.
Okay.
He couldn't show up, stuck in divorce court number 5 or whatever it was. And another black actor is there, and he's going to be playing Richard's role. And he came to my trailer and he knocks on the door. Hey, why don't we walk around, chit chat, get a little camaraderie? Okay. And the guy looks so damn familiar. He just, I'm scratching my head. I'm going, I know this guy. Come on, I know this guy. And I said to him, whatever jobs have you done? He said, I did this TV thing. No, that's not it. No. And he said, well, I did this comedy. I don't know if you ever saw it, Airplane. And then everything hit home. He's the thin jive guy that sits on the aisle seat in Airplane. And it was one of my favorite movies. I don't know if you ever biked to school, but I had a bike to middle school. And instead of putting music on my Sony Walkman, I put movies. So my movies were History of the World Part 1, Blazing Saddles, Smoking the Bandit, Airplane, and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
All good
And I would
choices.
just listen to them. So the minute he said it, I just went bananas. I mean, I lost my mind. He's like, oh, you know my movie? And I said, oh, Bud Layman to the Bones, checking me up. Oh, tight me. And I started doing him. I started doing all the jive talk from Airplane. And he's laughing and I'm laughing. And we had a blast. So we came back. I go on my trailer. He goes to the set and he tells them, I don't know where you found this kid, but he's nuts. He's the shorter white version of Richard. He's insane. Told them what I did. So we got on the set and they had built a staircase that we were going to walk down and do the dialogue and whatever. So we did that a couple times. And Richard Donner says, okay, enough of that. Go up again, do it in jive talk. So I started just coming up with this stuff and he's coming up with stuff and we were just riffing back and forth. And it worked. We got down to the bottom of the staircase and everybody's cracking up, because what we had just done was a whole bunch of nonsense, but it was funny. At that point, after I did, some more takes, whatever, then it was tell jokes. Well, as most 13-year-olds go, all I knew were dirty jokes. So my agent's there, my dad's there. They got 100 people at the bottom of the staircase, all that stuff. And the first joke was, in the movie, his name was Jack Brown. So I said, Jack, what's the difference between a rooster and a hooker? A rooster says cock-a-doodle-doo. A hooker says any cock will do. And of course, I really don't know much of what the hell I'm saying other than I know the joke and people laugh. And then I told this other couple of jokes, whatever. And I think they pretty much knew it at that point. I got down the bottom of the steps. My agent whispered over to my dad, I'm going to kill him. You can't be doing this stuff. He's 13 years old. You can't be telling these jokes, not realizing that really that's what they wanted. So they took me for a little walk and I spoke with Ray Stark and Richard Donner, and they kind of wanted to feel me out. What do you know about Richard Pryor? What do you know about Jackie Gleason? I said, well, I'm a fan. What do you want to know? Stir Crazy, Bingo Long, Silver Streak, so I knew Richard stuff. And they get to Gleason. And I said, well, come on, everybody knows the Honeymooners, that kid. They're like, yeah, everybody knows that. It's on TV all the time. I said, well, Smokey and the Bandit. I mean, let's face it, there's no way that you could come from my loins. And I started doing all of the Sheriff Buford T. Justice stuff. And they're cracking up and they're like, hey, listen, it was nice to meet you. Great, terrific. Okay. So I got home and it took, 17 days for them to call me back. We were at the holidays. So this was, right before, this was, a week or so before Christmas. And they called me right after New Year's. And I wanted this so bad that literally I got myself sick. I'm in New Jersey, snow on the ground. It's 25 degrees, whatever. And the day, it was a Friday, and I'm laying in my parents' bed, sick as a dog. I got to go back to school on Monday. And the phone rings. It's like 11:30 in the morning. And it's Richard Donner. And he's like, hi, Scott, Richard Donner. Now, I told my friends, Richard Donner, but I didn't tell them Dick Donner because that was his, nickname. So I said, really, it's Richard Donner. Uh-huh. What did we call you on the set? So I'm questioning him, And he goes, everybody calls me Dick Donner. That's when I realized that. I said, hey, can you hang on for 1 second, please? Hold on. And I'm laying in my parents' bed in my underwear. I'm not kidding. I got up out of the bed and I ran out the front door and I put my head in the snow. Wanted to make sure I was really awake. And I come back and I said, hello, you still there? He's like, yeah, everything okay? I said, everything's fine. He's like, well, I just wanted to congratulate you. You got the film. You'll be coming out next week. We're going to do wardrobe fittings, whatever. Great, thank you. And of course, I say great, thank you, but then I hung up the phone. I was going bananas. I'm jumping on the bed and I'm like, yes, the 101 fever I had just ixnayed. Bye-bye, and felt great. And, it was time to go to work.
Do you remember?
Well, I'm going to jump in for a second because are you aware of anyone else who tested for the film or also auditioned? I mean,
everybody auditioned.
I imagine so, but when it got down to it, if you had any encounters or knew exactly who the contenders were,
we didn't know then. But after the film, we asked if they had my screen test because it was so funny. We wanted to see it, and on the same reel was the winner of the Toys R Us Jackie Gleason lookalike contest. So he was on there. And of course, he couldn't act his way out of a paper bag. So that was out. And the other kid was now a friend of mine who's wonderful. His name is Henry Thomas.
Wow.
So
okay.
we're the final three. I won't count the kid from the Toys R Us. We'll say final two. And Henry Thomas, I call him the Al Pacino of the kids. He was that serious, that strong, could cry at the drop of a dime, and that wasn't me.
One of the ones I hated.
They didn't need that. They needed the emotional thing for 2% of the film, and the other 98%, they wanted insanity.
Sure.
So it worked in the way I was and my, I don't know, call it style or whatever you want to call it, my personality was completely different from his, which funny thing is we didn't see each other. They had him on one side, me on the other. So we didn't know it at the time. And it took probably close to 20 years before he and I actually crossed paths. And I said, hey, how you doing? We started chit-chatting. He's like, listen, I got to tell you something. It's been bugging the shit out of me for 20 years. I said, what's that? He said, you broke my streak, man. I had 4 movies in a row. I screen tested 4 that I booked, and the 5th one was a toy, and you broke my streak.
That's awesome.
I think he did all right there too.
Oh, listen, he's a wonderful, terrific actor, and he's done a lot of jobs, and thrilled for him, the career that he's had, and he's still going, and it's great, So, I've always been a believer in we're all meant to get the job we're meant to get. That's how it goes.
But it's so interesting when you just think about, classics like this, and if a different actor had been chosen, it would be completely different. Because I learned about it even with Witch Mountain. I learned about because Kim Richards and I screen tested together. We were the first two young actors, on that reel. And I learned later when I was writing my memoir from the archives department that Willie Ames and Melissa Sue Anderson had screen tested, as well as a couple of other kids, which only makes sense. But I was completely unaware of it at the time. And I think quite often, if it had been Melissa Sue Anderson and Willie Ames, what a different movie it would have been.
People, they always say, oh, well, what was it, or how come, or all these things. And I try and explain to them, it's the vision that the director has, really when it comes down to it.
Right.
If they wanted somebody who was 5'5" and brunette, I don't get the movie. They wanted somebody who's got blue eyes and I have hazel eyes, or what, you don't get the movie. That's really what it becomes. You could be the greatest actor on planet Earth, but if the person sitting across the table goes, I'm just not seeing it, you're done. It doesn't matter. It's your history.
Yeah.
So it takes 25% skill, 70% luck, and 5% is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's really what a lot of casting comes down to, especially with kids. Because most directors and as we're being older, we can reflect and go, most directors don't know what they're getting when they book a child. They really don't. They're hoping that what they see, they can carry over for a 2, 3, 4, 5 month shoot. It's Dick Donner said to me, thank God That was his words. Thank God. Because having done all the, 100 plus commercials, 100 plus voiceovers, Broadway, off Broadway, I knew how to act around adults. I was not the typical 13, 14-year-old kid. My brains were way, way ahead of, my age. So in this case, it really helped because Gleason and Pryor ad-libbed everything. And I ad-libbed nothing. The first day of shooting was a disaster. They wanted to get the hardest scene, in their opinion, out of the way first, which is the scene in the limousine when we're going back at the end of the film. He's taking me back to the airport and I'm crying. They wanted to get this done first. Not one person says to me, oh, by the way, Gleason ad-libs. And I would have said, well, what does that mean? Because I had no idea what it was. So nobody tells me he doesn't stick to the script. He doesn't do anything. So he's throwing me off all day long. And he'll blah, 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 and then he'll stop all of a sudden. And I'm going, because I'm not getting my cues.
Right.
I'm not getting, well, okay, where am I coming in here? So the first day of shooting was a disaster. I almost got fired. Wow. They took me back to the other producer his name was Phil Feldman. Took me back to his little office in our motel. And he called my dad and he goes, listen, we got a problem. Your son does not know the script. He doesn't know his lines. And my father's like, come on. This is a joke phone call, right? He knows everybody's lines. What are you talking about? He's like, well, we just wasted a day of shooting. So, if this goes on again, we're going to have to let him go. He's like, it's impossible. So he handed me the phone and I said, Dad, he's not saying what he's supposed to be saying. My dad's like, all right, we'll fix this later, whatever. I know what is, give the phone back. So you give the phone back. He kind of explained to him, hey, this is the kid's first film. You got to kind of tell him what Gleason done. And Phil Feldman was not, he was a wonderful man, but didn't know, even he didn't know how to explain it. So I go back to my room and I'm laying in the bed and I'm crying my eyes out. It was about 2 hours later and Richard Pryor calls me on the phone. Come to my room. So I go to his room and we're talking. And we talked for about 15 or 20 minutes. And he goes, okay, stop. What are we doing? We're having a chat. We're having a conversation. He says, yes, but every question or comment has a response. We're ad-libbing. You don't know what you're going to say in advance. And I don't know what I'm going to say in advance. It's just whatever comes out. That's how we do a lot of this. So just pay attention. And when somebody shuts up, jump in. Okay, fine. We talked for a couple of hours. I went back to my room. I called my dad, told him I talked to Rich. He goes, yeah, that's great advice. That's exactly what you do. Whatever Gleason says, doesn't matter. When he shuts up, say your line. Okay. And it took me about 10 days. And I started ad-libbing right along with him. I just went with the flow.
So really, Richard Pryor is just like really kind-hearted here. I mean, he's just like,
no, he was my mentor. He was my muse. He was my go-to. He was all of it. It was the first really big film that he had done after burning himself up. And he wanted to be a better person. He wanted to be a teacher. He wanted to be, a better man, so to speak. And my personality and the way we got along, I was the beneficiary. I had the questions. He had the answers.
How did Gleason react? Was he?
Oh, he was fine. No, I mean, again, as long as you called him Mr. Gleason, you were fine. You either called him Mr. Gleason or Great One. That was his nickname, the Great One. It took me about a month, and he's my dad in the movie. I started calling him Dad. I called him Pop. And he sort of warmed up to that. He was okay with that because I'm the kid, and I'm playing his son. And he was okay with that. But we had one, there was a day at the big house in Louisiana and our trailers are out in front. And his assistant came up and said, hey, Mr. Gleason would like to talk to you. Okay. Now on the set, I was allowed to go anywhere I wanted to go, but one place, Jackie Gleason's trailer. So I go out and I started going into the house and he's like, no, he's in his trailer. And I'm like, he's like, no, it's okay. It's okay. So I go and I sat down and he and I are chit-chatting, and Mr. Gleason, he said, listen, it's enough. You drive me crazy. In here, it's okay. You can call me Jackie. But out there, you have to call me Mr. Gleason or Dad or Pop. It's a respect thing. So if you don't do it, then they won't do it, and that no problem. So I mean, even he gave that, olive branch of kindness and friendship. But I mean, he taught me how to shoot pool. We talked about vaudeville and George M. Cohan, and I mean, so many, vintage Hollywood things.
Well, that's what I read. I was reading while, researching for this, that Richard Pryor loved that Jackie Gleason told all these great stories during shooting,
A little. Gleason told some. He used me as a human shield. That's the only way you can explain it, okay? Everybody's in their director's chair, and people would come up to Gleason and talk to him and whatever. But he figured out if he would put me on his leg, on his lap, that people would leave him alone. Oh, he must be talking to the kid. We don't, let's not talk to him. So he literally, day after day, would stick me on his leg, and our heads are right here. He's, 10 inches away from me. And he would chain smoke. You can't do that now, but back then there was no PC, there was no nothing. You just did what you did. But he used me as a human shield, so people would leave him alone. I mean, and I weighed all the 54 pounds. It didn't matter, 52 pounds, whatever. But he and I got along wonderfully. He was, again, I had questions that not the typical kid asked him, and he would answer, and he loved it because I didn't ask stupid questions. He knew I loved the Honeymooners, and I would do shtick for him, whatever. And then every so often, Monday to Friday in Louisiana, in Baton Rouge, Honeymooners were on 11:30 at night. And the next morning he would come in the makeup trailer. Not always, but more than several times. Now he would normally do his makeup in his own trailer, but he would come to the makeup trailer because I'm sitting there, and he'd be like, kid, what was on last night? And I would go right into the episode. And he got a kick out of the fact that I'm 4'9", 4'10", and I'm doing him. He loved it.
So your relationship with both of them was really great on the set and everything?
I had a wonderful relationship with everybody. From Teresa, Ned was a very kind and sweet man. Wilfred Hyde-White was great. Alex Hyde-White, his son, is in the film. We had a good rapport. To the camera guys, to the lighting guys, to the transportation coordinator. I mean, again, I had a fun, outgoing personality. So I became one of the gang. I paid attention to everything. My lunch, some days I'd go in the trailer. It would just depend on where we are, what we were doing, whatever. But if I wasn't in the trailer, I'm talking to the lighting guys, the tech guys, the sound guys. Gene Canamesa was our sound mixer who did most of Mel Brooks's stuff. He did Blazing Saddles, he did History of the World Part 1 and all, and he's wonderful. The boom operator, and now I'm going to fail, and I can't believe it. I could see his face. I actually reached out to him right before the virus hit, and we had a wonderful chat on the phone, and he lives about 20 minutes from me, and after all this is over, I'm going to go over the house and go see him. And his wife actually came to Chiller.
Oh, wow.
His wife played Miriam, the Vestal Virgin, in History of the World Part 1.
Oh, wow.
Mary, oh my God. Now I feel stupid. I just blanked on her name. But, so I mean, I've had good rapport with pretty much everybody I've worked with on sets.
Mm-hmm. How about Donner? How was your relationship with him? He just passed this year, unfortunately.
Yes. Oh no, I know. I called him Pop, and he called me Junior. Or I call him Boss. It was either Boss or Pop. It was one or the other, and he called me Junior.
You keep in touch with him afterwards?
Sure. Oh yeah. No, Dick, Mel Brooks, Frank Mazursky, Alan Ladd Jr., they used to have a lunch on Cannon Drive in Beverly Hills. And a couple of friends of mine told me about it, brought me down there. The next thing you know, I'm sitting at the table with the gang.
Oh, wow.
You know, it was the Brooklyn, New York Jewish club,
Right.
you know, and even though I'm not from Brooklyn, I'm from Jersey, but I'm one of the Jewish club. So it was like, you know, I came, said hello to Mel. He had not a clue who the hell I was. And then I saw Dick and sat down and we chit chatted, and he told Mel, you know, Scotty was in the toy with Richie, you know, da 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 da. And Mel loved Richard Pryor, so it became a bucket list of just the who's who, and had a great time. And you know, I mean, I would send messages to Dick on Facebook, and we go back and forth, and you know,
You can't tell from the accent, but I'm a Brooklyn boy.
yeah, I mean, he's gone, you know,
Yeah.
and I already have the dates for the memorial service in April, and you know, he was just a great man, just a good-hearted, great guy. You know, a hug and a kiss, and you talk, and has the family, and as you get older, and Ike will attest to this, the questions and the things that we say change.
Oh,
you
sure.
know, it goes from them just asking you, well, how's your mom and dad? You know, how's your to how's the family, and you're asking them, how's Lauren doing? How you know, how's this, how's that? And you ask them, and you go back and forth.
Now, I just, what I didn't know was watching this is that this was based on a French film. I had no idea about that. Yeah, had you ever seen that before or no?
No, I've seen the poster, but that's it.
I just watched the trailer for it. Talking to, so it seemed like a very different movie a little bit.
Well, sure. I mean, you know, there's only been one Richard Pryor.
Sure.
You know, that's that's the only way to explain it. You know, you're talking about a very special individual. You know, you comedic genius, yes. Life genius, yes. A very studious man, you know, and someone who dealt with so much pain from his childhood growing up to turn out the way he turned out. That's beyond the American dream, you know.
I read also that you were up for a role in the Goonies. Which role was it with?
Oh, I was up for Mouth.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. My sort of screen test. I mean, I'm sitting there with we were in Manhattan with Dick Donner and Steven Spielberg. And I'm going, I got this, you know, it's Dick. Here we go. You know, this is great. But again, I was blonde.
Wow.
The person they cast was a brunette. They didn't want another blonde because Sean Astin was a blonde. Kerry Green is a blonde. You know, so they got these blondes, and they kind of wanted the brunette to offset, you know, the other casting.
Oh, amazing. So right after the toy, you get a part in what would eventually become arguably one of the most beloved holiday movies of all time, A Christmas Story.
Well, actually, I did a film in the middle.
Did you?
I did a film for 20th Century Fox called Kidco that I was the lead in.
I thought that came out afterwards. So that came out before A Christmas Story?
It came out afterwards. They just didn't know what to do with it because it was a small movie. So, I mean, but we actually shot it several months. I finished shooting, I finished shooting December 10th, which was the day the toy opened in the theaters. And I saw Bob Clark for A Christmas Story the following week.
Wow.
Good grief.
I was going to ask you about Kidco as well, but I didn't know that came out, that you shot it beforehand. I would also argue about in Christmas Story, your big scene with, you know, the tongue is stuck to the flagpole. I think it's probably in the top 50 most iconic scenes from any movie of all time. So can you just tell us about that movie, starting with your casting?
Easiest casting in the history of mankind. If somebody could tell me they had an easier casting call than this, I want to hear it. So as I said, the toy had just come out in the theaters, and I go and I see Bob 5 days later. And I go, and it's just me and him. There's nobody else there. He just wanted to meet me. Hi, how you doing? And we chit-chatted for about 8 or 10 minutes. He goes, listen, I'm starving. I didn't have lunch. You want to go downstairs and have a hot dog? We were in New York. You're asking a 14-year-old kid, does he want to go have a dirty water dog? I'm there. Let's go. You know, go down. We had a hot dog, Pepsi, Yoo-hoo, whatever it was. We come back. We're talking. Come back upstairs. He's like, hey, I got to tell you, it was great to meet you. Thanks for coming. I said, do you want me to read something? No. Whatever I want, I know you can do. I've seen you already. No problem. Thanks. Okay, talk to you soon. That was it. Walked out and walked up 7 blocks to my agent's office. Walked in. She said, "What did you do?" I said, "Well, we chit-chatted. We had a hot dog. We chit-chatted. I left." That was pretty much it. Well, you got the movie. He called already.
Wow.
That was it.
That's incredible.
One took weeks and the other one took 12 minutes.
So let's talk about that. You're great in that movie. You're great in Detroit too. Let's talk about the flagpole scene. First of all, how cold was it, and how was it done?
We were up in a little town called St. Catharines, Ontario, which is between Toronto and Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
So it was anywhere between 20 and 24 below zero that day. The first time we did it. So it's brutal out there, And I mean, we shot it twice. We shot it the first time, took 12 and a half hours. 2 days later, Bob Clark comes to me and he says, "I got good news and bad news. The good news is you're going to be with us a few more days. Bad news, they underdeveloped the film. We got to do the whole scene over again."
Oh, no. I didn't know that was why. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the second time it was 11 and a half hours.
Oh my gosh.
But, it's, again, it was Bob's mind working to figure out the pieces of the puzzle. He knew who he wanted for Ralphie. Once he saw people die, the bully, Scott, Farkas, Grover, Dill, Zach, and Yama, he knew those were the guys. Me, Flick is supposed to be the fun one. Well, there you go. That was tough casting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in the script, it says Flick sticks tongue to pole. That's it. No dialogue, no react, no nothing. There's no instruction or direction of any kind. And so we're doing this. And I said to Bob, I said, "Well, tell me what you want." He says, "Just do what comes natural. Whatever comes natural, just do it." He goes, "If I don't like it, I'll tell you. But go ahead, let's go." Okay. So we did it. And I'm coming up with all the shtick and all the, stuck, and all this stuff. And he's loving it. So I did it 3 or 4 times. He goes, "Okay, now give me more. Just go overboard. Just let it fly. Just go." Okay. So I let it fly for a couple of takes. He goes, No, you did it right the first time. The way you did it, that's the way to do it. Just keep doing it. Like, okay, fine. So, all the "don't leave me, come back" and all that other stuff, that was just stuff I came up with off the cuff. That was Richard. That was the tutelage and the teachings of Richard getting me through, getting my tongue stuck on the pole in its own crazy way, because I just learned how to ad-lib.
So obviously, how do they manage the special effects? Because it still remains, even though I know how it's done, when I hear the story here, I still can barely watch that scene. And I'm sure that's so true for so many people, because you know how painful this is going to be. Just in your mind, you can't help it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the stick, it's going in the freezer and pulling out a piece of ice and just stick it to your tongue. You get stuck. But in this particular case, there's actually a real flagpole there, but they put a cover over it. So what you see there is plastic, and they just kind of painted it to look like an old rusty pole. And they put a hole in it about the size of your pinky nail, just a small little hole with a tube that went into the snow. And there was a little vacuum motor, like a Dirt Devil, So basically it was. So, I mean, really, that's really all that it was, and there were takes where I pulled off. I tried to extend my tongue and it just popped off,
That was going to be my question, like how you had to work it. See, that's one of the things I loved about doing that kind of stuff, is because if you didn't work it, you couldn't, it wouldn't work, even if it worked. So you had to figure out what your limits were.
It has to look real.
Yeah.
So the even funnier part of this, and again, this goes to shooting in the early 80s. So they got this thing ready to go and whatever. And I said to Bob Clark, "How does this thing work?" And he goes, "Oh, watch this." And Bob walked over to the pole. He stuck his tongue to the pole. They turned the motor on. And he said, "See, I told you." He said, like, and then you just pop off and you go, "Okay, fine." I'm not kidding you, Ike. It was 30 years later when it hit me. After Bob did it, nobody cleaned the pole. Nobody went and took a little napkin and went like this.
Yeah,
No,
of
so
course
wherever
not.
so it's like I was in my own crazy way French kissing Bob Clark because I'm sticking my tongue where his tongue was, you know.
That's
So
That's
totally
fantastic.
totally unsanitary. But I'm serious. It was like 30 years later when I was telling the story and I went, they never cleaned the pole. They never cleaned the pole,
Yeah.
you know. And you know, unfortunately Bob had passed by then. Otherwise, he and I would have had a really good joke.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
No,
You know, but brutal. People have asked me, what is your favorite part of Christmas Story? And I go, leaving.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when I did the scene, they had these things that were hand warmers, you know, and they were just little bags, and you shook them up and you stuck them in, you know, the mitt, but they were only good for like 40 minutes. But they would tape it. They would tape the gloves to our, you know, to the shirt underneath. You couldn't see it, but it kept the gloves on. But it had no lining. It was just leather. It's 1940s, you know, gloves. My hands were frozen. My feet were frozen. Now we had battery operated long johns. We had battery operated socks. Didn't matter. You know, the batteries run out and your feet froze, and that was what it was, you know. So, I mean, the most fun I had was me and Pete. You know, we got to hang out the most, and, you know, we pulled pranks on people and did all kinds of crazy things. We didn't get in any trouble, you know, but we had a fun time. Video games, thank God. You know, thank God for Frogger and Pac-Man.
what pranks?
Oh, please. Throwing water balloons out the window. And I didn't try to hit anybody. You know, we didn't try to hit anybody, but we knew if we came close, the water would explode. I'm sorry. Got to pause for one.
Sure.
Hello?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I would never do that. I never answer a call while I'm on a podcast. A family of rats has moved into my house.
Oh gosh.
Oh no.
Oh.
So we have one trapped in the kitchen under a bucket with a 30-pound weight on it, and it's the size of my little dog, Miss Elizabeth. It's like 4 or 5 pounds. There's one under the sink that we've taped up. Believe it or not, I think there's actually one under my bed because I found a few little things, and I think maybe, or he's in my closet. I'm not sure. So the rat guy is supposed to be, he was supposed to be here between 8 and 12. And of course, you know, I talked to you guys at 11 and I get no phone calls. So he might not call me till 2 o'clock this afternoon, but it was a local call, so I got to pick up the phone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Geez.
Anyway.
No, don't worry. Keep answering your phone.
Yes.
Well, no, the first one I knew who it
we're-
was, so I hung up on him. That's fine.
There you go.
I mean, Christmas Story was fun. So the jokes. So that was one thing. We threw the water balloons. Peter's room was about 4 down from me, and Bob's room was about 7 or 8 on the other side of the hallway. And of course, actors always get back to the hotel before the director. Okay. Now, have you seen pictures of Bob? He wasn't exactly, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime, or, you know, a thin guy. You know, he indulged. Okay. And I don't mean booze, food. Okay. So Peter and I are in the room one day, and we hear the elevator, and we kind of stuck our heads out, you know, whatever. And we see Bob, and I knew what room he was in. Okay. And I went, we got to figure this out. So, okay. So the next day, Pete and I were playing, you know, whatever it was, Mattel Television or ColecoVision, whatever you're playing. And we hear the elevator, and we look, and here comes Bob, you know, go back in the room. And back then, when you called room service, they didn't know what room you're in. They would just stick the thing in and go, room service. They had no idea. Now they know everything. So I'd be like, yes, this is Mr. Clark in 612. Can you please send me up a filet, grill it, and you know, and what do I always say? Cut it in half. I like it medium rare, medium well, please, thank you. And potato, absolutely, give me a potato. You know, I started sending Bob food. So the elevator would open up, and we would be sticking our heads out, and the guy would go down, and, oh, Mr. Clark, we have your steak. You go, what steak? Well, we have it here. You ordered a steak. I didn't order a steak. Well, no, Mr. Clark, we have a filet for. Oh, filet? All right, bring it in. No problem. So this went on like every couple of days for like 2 weeks. And finally, Bob, we're all on the set, and Bob goes, okay, I need to say something here. Whoever the hell is sending me these steaks, stop sending me the steaks. Can you switch to salmon or chicken, please? Those kind of things,
It's amazing to me that the movie, when I was just looking at it, that the movie was co-written. This was written and directed by the same guy who co-wrote, Porky's and directed Porky's. And I love Porky's. It's just, it's amazing to me that the two things came from the same person.
His body of work is so vast, definitely an unsung master of filmmaking that doesn't get really the credit he's due. He starts with Black Christmas in 1973 with Margot Kidder. So now he's done the horror movie. Then he does Children Don't Play with Dead Things, another horror movie. Then he goes on a couple of years later, is Porky's. Well, that's the furthest thing from a horror film, And Porky's goes bananas. And the studio wanted him to make Porky's 2. And he had been trying to get Christmas Story made for 10 years. Mm-hmm. Nobody would put up 10 cents. Forget it. Now he had the power. Now he had the leverage to do his movie. It was like August. And they go to him, Porky's 2. He goes, I can't do it. It's spring, summer. But I'm going to make my movie Christmas Story. Oh, what's that? And he explained it. And they're like, nah. No, it's going to be wonderful. It's this. It's Gene Shepard's writing and all that. So he talked MGM into giving him $4 million toward the budget. He wanted $5 million. He returned his directing and producing fee for a piece of the film so he could have the budget that he wanted. Of course, it's easy to do that when Porky's made $104 million on a $2.5 million budget. And you're the director and, producer and whatever, and a writer. So he does it. While we were shooting Christmas Story, he's watching the dailies, he's cutting and editing, because as soon as the film gets done, he's basically got to be done so he can go into pre-production in March on Porky's 2 and shoot April, May, June. I mean, that was Bob, But the different things, Super Babies, Rhinestone, you cannot blame on Bob Clark. He's a replacement director at the 11th hour, literally 2 days before shooting. The guy who was going to direct it, they either canned him or he quit. They had to find somebody.
Sure.
And now Bob has done Porky's 1 and Porky's 2, and he's done. They offered him a boatload of money. He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. What is this? Dolly Parton, Sylvester Stallone. All right, this is going to be a disaster, but we'll make the best of it. Okay, let's go. That's what Bob did.
Well, with the Christmas Story script, did the original screenplay have all the narration in it, or did that evolve into the film at a later date?
No, it was there from day one.
It was there from day one. Okay. Because it looked like it was shot that way, but I couldn't tell because it's such a unique film in so many ways, just the texture of it, the style of the narration, and really the way it overlays, because that's like, everyone will tell you screenwriting 101, no, do not narrate a movie. That never, ever, ever, ever works. And yet without this narration, this film is absolutely nothing. I mean, it really isn't. So I was just, it's just very different. And I think that's one of the things I like about it. And it grows on me every single time I see it, every single time. So I was just curious about that, that detail.
When did you start realizing that this was going to become the classic that it is? I mean,
it takes forever. The process, again, it's sort of like the history of the film. It takes 10 years to get made, and it gets released in 1983, and it goes on VHS, and it sits there. Mm-hmm. And 1996, Ted Turner is buying the MGM library for TNT TBS. And he was down to 2 films. I got the story from somebody who worked there, so I know the story. And needed 2 films. And his secretary said to him, have you ever seen A Christmas Story? No, what's that? Because it, didn't didn't get a big push, didn't get nothing, just on video. And she brought in her VHS tape, and Ted Turner and Jane Fonda sat in his office and going, "Oh, what a lovely film. Sure." It was the 2 films to go in the package that they needed. Okay, fine. They threw it in. It cost $250,000. That's what they bought the film for. And they get the film, and then Ted said, "Okay, well, I got it. Now what should we do with this?" And they had just done Wizard of Oz for a couple of years. The first year did okay. Second year, they went down. That was it. Before that, they had done It's a Wonderful Life. It went 1 year, did okay. Second year, didn't do so well. That's the end of that. Their thought process was, we only have $250,000 into this thing. If we run 2 marathons, we get back our money. We're in the profit, and we're going to sell it forever. Not realizing, none of us did, that they ran it the first year, it did pretty good. All right, we keep going. They did it the second year. Instead of it tanking, the ratings go up. Okay, well, let's see what happens again. It's like 99, 2000, when you get into the 3rd, 4th year of the marathon, where things start being talked about. The Christmas Story house, I think it's 03. I think it starts, or 05, but NECA, the toy company, did a Christmas Story license for toys in 03. That's their first, and it's 20 years after the film is made. There is not one piece of merchandise before that. Once you start seeing, the lunchbox, the leg lamp, the action figures, you kind of know you've gone to a different level at that point. And then it just kept going. Then it's, the leg lamps everywhere, and it's, all over the place in every form, fashion you can imagine, from a bobblehead to a pop to whatever. Then it's the Monopoly board. Being on a Monopoly board's pretty cool. And I'm Illinois Avenue. It's like, that's pretty cool. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm Indiana.
Yeah,
Indiana,
but do you have
Illinois.
a comic book? Do you have a comic book?
No, they never did a comic book.
All right. Well, I got that
Never
one
did.
on you. So there you go.
Never did a comic book. No, listen, at the end of the day, it's all fun. Realistically.
Yeah.
Being on a comic book, having an action figure, a pop, a bobblehead, it's great. That and $5 still gets us a cup of coffee and a donut at Dunkin' Donuts.
You got it,
So
man.
Realistically, it means nothing. There are 30 statues, bronze statues of actors around the world. Now, I'm not talking about like Hall of Fames, nothing like, I mean, just in places around the globe. As crazy as it is, Jackie Gleason has one for the Honeymooners that sits in New York at the bus station. They did one of Richard Pryor, a full-size life statue in his hometown of Peoria, Illinois. Sylvester Stallone, Rocky, everybody thinks about it, but it's really a prop from the film. So it's really not a bronze statue. It's just kind of the prop. Okay, fine. But they did Jean-Claude Van Damme, Schwarzenegger, Mary Tyler Moore has a statue. Henry Winkler has a statue. Well, they decided to do a statue of me at the Welcome Center in Hammond, Indiana, the home of Gene Shepard. And I mean, the thing weighs a ton, and it's bronze, and I mean, it costs like $60,000 or $70,000 to make. And the guy that made it, it was incredible. He's the same guy that did the bust for Jerry Buss's gravesite.
Wow.
He did Gordie Howe statue. He did one of Jordan's statues, Gretzky's and he's doing me. What? Okay, I mean, it's wonderful to have it there, and it'll be there until the end of time, way beyond when I'm walking the earth. Again, it's great to have that and say one of 30 people in the history of Hollywood have this. I'm one of them. Makes no sense, but it is what it is.
It's great.
But what does it mean? I walk into Burger King, they still want $12 for my food. It don't matter.
Well, it does, because you're immortalized now. That's
Well, everybody wants to leave a legacy. I mean, you have kids, right?
Yeah.
I do not. I do not. Jonathan.
So you're
does,
like
no.
me. You and I have no kids. So my legacy is I've left the tongue stuck to the flagpole and the statue.
We've left movies and amazing performances, and part of the classic like lexicon of film history, which is good enough for me.
Yeah, it's most of my friends have kids, and they kind of see their legacy as the people
sure.
that leave behind and all that. And I'm like, I don't have that, but
Mhm.
what I'm leaving brings a smile to people's faces. And that
Yeah.
to me, I'd rather be that guy than Charlie Manson. Thank you very much. It's just me.
Now, how many times have you decked someone for triple dog daring you?
Why? I mean,
No, I'm kidding.
life is to be enjoyed,
Sure.
to experience life, not just exist in life. And the fans come up and I triple dog dare you and this and that. I mean, there's only been a couple of instances where I've really called people out for saying it. It's like if I know somebody is extremely bright and extremely smart, they might even be an executive producer of shows and other things like that. And, the world of wrestling knows, this guy very, very, very well. He's basically known as a genius. And he actually said it to me. And I looked at him, I said, really? That's all you got? You got the same shit that 800,000 people have said to me in the past 37 years, 38 years. That's all you got, man? It caused quite a laugh.
Now, I mentioned the toy, but you also worked with some heavyweights, later on. I mean, you worked with The Time to Live with Liza Minnelli and Swoosie Kurtz. Also, Corey Haim was in that one. I mean, what was it like to work with Liza?
For the most part, she was very nice. There were a couple of days something had happened, and I to this day I don't know what they were. But you could see she was kind of just having a bad day. You kind of feel people out, and once you start working with them, when they're very, hey, and then the next day they're like, you could kind of tell something's going on. But in the overall, wonderful, and she was actually performing 7-8 months after we did the show in New York, out on Long Island. And I called her agent and I told her who I was and blah, blah, blah. And she called me back. Eliza would love to see you. So we got tickets and went to the show, and afterwards got to see her and hug and kiss and how you been and what's going on. So, talk about an extremely talented woman.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, I was reading that you were close with Corey Haim until his unfortunate passing.
Yeah. No, he's my little brother. I mean, I got it here. There he is. He's on my wall. These are my wall of friends that are no longer here. But no, Haim, good-hearted kid.
Mhm.
Good-hearted guy. I mean, I know him from the time he was 14. Until he passed. And when there were the good times, the bad times, the bad times. We both moved in an apartment building together. He was right above me, so we'd get a deal on the rent. When he needed something, he called. And I miss him. He was a good guy. Life is not fair, but life is what life is. And he was a bright light in the room. There was no question. A hell of an actor,
Talented,
good-looking
talented.
kid.
Mhm.
Had his demons. Which I think were more manufactured than anything else. But I mean, I know everything, and I don't want to spend 2 hours talking about it.
Sure.
But there was an incident that happened, and it kind of just changed everything. And it's where the demons really started, and tough to shake somebody of that.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, he passes from walking pneumonia, the 2010, thing that just went on. Brittany Murphy died of it.
Right.
Her husband dies of it. Haim passed away from it. I saw him a couple weeks before he passed. What's going on? We threw the frisbee. Okay, fine. So his mom, and you just don't know what's going to happen.
You still keep in touch with his mom?
Yep.
No.
Yep. I've sort of filled the other role. One son left and the other one appeared. And
Right.
we talk and we text and we chat on whatever. And great lady.
Yeah.
There is no perfect parent. That's how life is. There is no perfect parent, but she was a hell of a mom, you know. And Bernie, his father, was a hell of a dad.
Right.
You know, I mean, by the time that we all went out to LA, I mean, I'm an adult, you know, I'm 19 years old already. I say I'm an adult in the fact that I'm not 15, you know. And so you can have adult conversations with parents, be it my parents, his parents, didn't matter, you know. And they're good people, you know. His sister's wonderful, and you know, I miss him, you know, truly. I truly do, you know.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I also researching. I just saw about. I had no idea about, which I'm enjoying tremendously. The Quarantine Bunch. We have a bunch of other actors: Danny Pintaro, Jeremy Miller, Judy Norton. You did something similar with the Comeback Kids. How much fun were those to shoot? I mean, they looked.
Oh, they were great. You know, I mean, a little different though. I mean, Quarantine Bunch, because we did it while, you know, the lockdown happened. And so we're just seeing everybody on Zoom, you know, like this, and okay, you know, so you don't really get to sit down and BS with them, whatever. But it was fun to see my friends, to see Todd and Jeremy and Judy and the other gang, you know, and Dean. And the same guy had directed me in a pilot called The Comeback Kids, which was hilarious. It was, you know, two guys that were child actors, and they walked away from it for 20 years, and now they're coming back. They want to go back to work. And my role in it was I was playing their agent's son, and their agent was Gavin McLeod, Captain Steubing from the Love Boat. So I got to play Gavin's son, which was great. You know, he's passed. You know, God bless his soul. It was wonderful because the director was like, "Listen, I've written this stuff, but you have a certain way of saying things, and you have a certain, you know, way that you are. Just take and do what you want. If I don't like it, I'll tell you." You know, so he was willing to bounce and see what I would come up with. And pilot was fun. I mean, Bernie Capella's in it, and Keith Coogan, and I mean, a whole plethora of former child stars, which was great. You know, great to work with them. It didn't sell, but it was great. You know, and we had a screening, and unbeknownst to me, George Shapiro was there. The great George Shapiro, who was Andy Kaufman's manager and managed a whole bunch of stand-ups and all that kind of stuff. And he actually pulled the director aside and said, "Yeah, that kid, the guy that played the son, he was great. He was funny." But he leaves. I never got to meet him. And I'm like,
oh no,
it's George Shapiro. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
I just want to meet the guy, you know?
Yeah.
But again, you know, there's a lot of shows and a lot of things that get made. Sometimes they go, sometimes they don't go, you know, but anytime I get a chance to work with my peers and people that I've known or enjoyed their work for decades, why not? You know, it's living the dream, so to speak. You know, we all got bills and we all got rats, or we got dogs, or we got what kind of shit we got to do. But, you know, you know, I want to enjoy it. You know, I've lost many people, you know, along the way, from Dick Donner to Ned Beatty to Ned, Corey, you know, and many, many others. And I realized, you know what, I'm going to have fun at this thing. You know, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here. I'm 53. Who the hell knows? We don't know. Have fun every day. I don't care. Sing, dance, tell a joke, whatever it is. Enjoy every day. You know, yeah, we got bills and we got credit card debt. I don't care. When the man comes calling, or the woman comes calling, or whatever the higher power is, that's it. But I'm going to go out with a smile on my face.
It looked like you were having a lot of fun shooting it. It came across in a lot of your faces. So,
I mean, it's great. I was basically sitting in almost this same spot.
Right.
I might have been 6-8 inches over, whatever it was. But I mean, they gave us a script and all this stuff, and we're just sitting here and we're just, you know, hog styling or whatever. I think we actually did, I think, like 8 episodes, and something happened with the sound and they never redid it. But we did all 7 back to back to back to back to back. We were here for like 4 hours. You know, I mean, it's great because you've got, you know, 8 or 9 people, because it was set up like the Brady Bunch, you know, with the screens, you know. And it's great because somebody goes, "I'll be right back. Got to go to the bathroom." And they just get up, and they leave, and then they come back to okay, here we go. Now let's start up again,
I also that you were president of a minor consideration. Is not anymore?
You can only legally be the president of a 501c3 for 2 years.
Okay. Can you tell a little bit what they do?
Minor Consideration was started by Paul Peterson from the Donna Reed Show. And he basically started it because there was no support group for former child actors. One of his friends had committed suicide, had nowhere to turn, nowhere to go, nobody to talk to. And Paul wanted to do something, and that's how he started it. By the time I come in, it's 20-something years later, and they got a lot of laws changed to protect, child actors, current child actors. And then there's, the former child actors. So we had doctors on staff, psychologists, lawyers, MDs, whatever we needed. If somebody needed something, you send them to those people, and they worked with us as far as what they charged and what they did. A lot of pro bono stuff, no charge, whatever. And it's not only child actors, it's anybody in show business, whether singer, dancer, actor, musician, whatever it is. It has to do with show business. We were there. We could be there for somebody. And my thing was my mouth. I'm a Jersey guy, and I don't sugarcoat nothing, and I don't BS, and I don't lie. And if you're being a schmuck, I'm going to tell you you're being a schmuck. And if I don't like you, I'm going to tell you I don't like you. And if you're a lying bastard, I'm going to tell you you're a lying bastard. That's just how I am. And Paul wanted that. He didn't want somebody to come in and go, no, it's okay. We understand, Yeah, you're thinking of committing suicide. It's all right. Don't worry about it. No, that's not what he wanted. He wanted somebody that would jump in and go, hey, what are you thinking? What's going on? Let's work on the root of the problem. And so I was there, and it's interviews, it's talking to parents, it's talking to kids, it's, sometimes, the group, you go through things. We all did, Todd Bridges, the passing of Gary and Dana, and I'm on the phone with him, and I'm coming over, Again, I don't think Todd's going to do anything, of course, but he's still my friend, and I want to give him support and love, Haim, same way, even though it was before minor consideration stuff and whatever. I've always felt that we are the fortunate few. We are the ones that have lived the life of Riley. And who are we not to give back? Who are we not to share our experiences, our knowledge with those who may need it, or may want it? They might not even ask, I was with Zach, who played Scott Farkas in A Christmas Story. He was doing a show called Titus at the time on the Radford lot at CBS. And there was another show there, and there was a pretty big, male child actor who was making a gazillion dollars and didn't have a clue what the hell life was about. And a couple of crew guys came over to me. Hey, listen, can you do us a favor? Can you go talk to him? Because he's lost. He really doesn't have a clue of life. So when I talked to him, I said, hey, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. We're playing basketball. Okay, fine. Because the stage was literally right behind Zach's. And I said, listen, the show, you're in your 10th season, 11th season. It's only going to go another 1 or 2. What are you going to do after this? And he's like, well, I think I'm going to directing. Fantastic. Do you talk to the director? Do you go to the director's meetings? No, I know what I'm doing. Okay. What else? Well, I'd like to write. I like how the show's great. Do you talk to the writers? Oh, no, I got it. I can see the scripts. Jesus Christ. So I said, if all else fails, you don't make it as a director, you don't make it as a writer, what else? He actually looked at me and said, well, if all else fails, I'm going to become a race car driver. Now there's somebody I tried, I'm trying to explain things. The gravy train is going to end. Those $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a week check. No, they're going to end. What are you going to do?
The thing is these days, and we had Brad Savage on our show that we just posted recently, and Brad and I were talking about it, how back in our day, you didn't make a whole lot of money. I mean, you might have co-starring in the Toy Story, but no, those were the days when the child actors we had no financial leverage, because even though our group was small, they could move over to somebody else if it was going to cost too much money.
I was making $12.50 a week on the toy.
Well, there you go.
No, wait.
Yeah.
$1,750 a week. I'm sorry. $1,750 a week.
Yeah. But these days, these kids are making small fortunes. And as we all know, it's not, maybe for some of us, we had some influence over getting to the business, but it's usually the parents that are, moving the children along. How often have you ever had a parent ask you, should I get my child into this business? Have you ever had anybody ask you that?
Hundreds of times.
Yeah.
And most of the time it's logistics. They don't live in New York, Boston, Chicago, Orlando, LA. No, they live in Oklahoma. They live in Texas, outside of Dallas, whatever. And you kind of tell them, hey, listen, this is the logistics of it. You have to be in a major metropolis because that's where the casting goes on. So you got to be in Orlando. You got to be in Atlanta, LA, New York, Chicago, Boston. You're not in those places, you're in trouble to begin with. Now you're spending money, to go. While I was doing a minor consideration, we were doing a thing with a 12-year-old kid. They wanted to read with a real actor, for the role and whatever. Okay, and they were friends of a friend that were in the group. And one of the girls is reading with him and whatever. And the mother, the kid's 12 years old. They're from Texas. And they came out to California. The mother in the background goes, hey, you got to get this job. Otherwise, we're going to have to move back. And I don't want to do that.
Wow. Yeah.
How do you do that to a 12-year-old?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's one of the instances of things that I've seen. Being at an audition, I was probably 26, 26-ish, somewhere in there. And I'm at this audition. It's supposed to be like an older brother with a younger brother. And I've always looked very young, And the kid's sitting across from me and he's crying his eyes out. I want to go play with my friends. And the mother's like, no, you have this audition. And after, 3-4 minutes of this, I can't take it. And I just got up and I said, ma'am, what are you doing? What are you doing? Your child doesn't want to be here. What do you think is going to happen when he goes in the room? You think he's going to be smiling and wonderful? No. His eyes are all puffy and teary. They're going to say what's wrong. He's going to say, well, I want to be with my friends and I want to be playtime. And they're going to say, well, why don't you just go home? You'll be fine. Well, you've just wasted all your time. So every time you do this and every day that you do this, you're just wasting your time. Your kid's not going to get any jobs. He doesn't want to be here. And of course, she then opened up Pandora's box. Well, what do you know? And I told her. And of course, then she's a fan. I said, listen, thank you. I appreciate the fact that you're a fan. However, it doesn't change the fact that your kid doesn't want to be here.
Yeah.
And I'm in the business almost 20 years at that point. I've done. It's like, but I tell parents, it depends on your kid. That's the next step after logistics. It depends on your kid. If your kid is outgoing, and they do impressions and they sing and they dance and they love all that, okay, see where it goes. If your kid's an introvert and you want to get him into show business, it's a waste of time. What are you doing? Again, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your money, you're wasting all your efforts because the kid's never going to book a job.
Well, I my standard line is, would you want your kid to work in a shoe factory? Well, no. I said, well, entertainment industry is the only industry in the United States that employs child labor. It's illegal in every other industry. I said, think hard about that, because once you graduate college, if you're fortunate enough to do that, you're working for the rest of your life. How about letting a kid have a childhood? I loved my career. I loved it. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. But I did know a lot of kids who were not as enthusiastic. Maybe they kind of wanted it or they wanted something else. But that's a really big deal. So I would kind of toss it back to that in that way to see how they responded.
Yeah, but I mean, again, when going through the process and going through that time of my life, I never thought about it as, oh, this is my career. It's not how I thought of it. I just thought of it, I'm getting jobs and I'm working and I'm doing this show and I'm doing this commercial and I'm doing this and this is fun and this is great. And then you're on TV and then you're on the movies and okay, fine. I just had fun with it. I never looked at it and said, well, where am I going to be in 5 years? Where am I going to be going in 10 years? And should I go to Stella Adler? And no, I didn't do that. What I had was raw and came naturally. And I enjoyed the hell out of it, and nobody pushed, I was never pushed to do anything, it was just all fun. I again, from day one, you get a chance to work with, a New York Yankee, and I'm a Yankee fan. My guy was Thurman Munson, but he wasn't Berra, but that's okay though. But I knew who Yogi was and I had fun with it, but I had fun. That was my point. So when they said, do you want to keep going? That's like saying to a kid, hey, you just want to have one frozen chocolate pop or two? Yeah, of course, I'll take another one, or a devil dog. I'll take another one, So my thing was just a continuation of going out, getting jobs, working and doing, and okay, fine, and whatever. And I never looked at it from the aspect of what am I going to be doing in 20 years or 30 years? Never looked at it that way.
Yeah.
Just enjoyed it. But you're right. I mean, it's definitely gotten more of the factory lineup than it was before because everybody wants a shot at the brass ring. I mean, the toy, there's, officially there's like 4,000 kids that auditioned.
Oh.
That's a cattle call. The first call I had, there were like 400 kids there. And they just kind of chopped it down and chopped it away. And then you get to the real numbers, the real people that got a shot at this thing. Christmas Story, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I didn't see nobody there. It was me and Bob. That was it.
I wanted to follow up with what you're doing now. I mean, I saw that, I read that you're involved in movie memorabilia now. And
I've been doing memorabilia for decades. I collected trading cards, started out in 1975. And 2007, I started a line of trading cards with Donruss, the company called Donruss at the time, called Americana, which was a celebrity-driven product. Instead of all the same guys, baseball, football, basketball, it went a different direction, having celebrities. Still do some of that here and there, buy and sell memorabilia, do autograph shows, book people for shows like Ike. I still get people and talk to people, and I'm working on some stuff right now for next year already. There's a Super Bowl show here in LA.
Oh, nice.
That the guy wants some celebrities, and I'm trying to hook up some celebrities, but some of them don't want to do it because it's Super Bowl weekend. I'm like, come on, you're doing nothing on Saturday. Sunday, I get it, but not Saturday. Come on. And I'm working on a thing for the National Sports Convention, which is in Atlantic City, the end of next July. Some big monster heavy hitters, whatever you want to call them, for the biggest sports and memorabilia show of the year. They get about 85 to 100,000 people.
Oh, wow. Great.
So, I mean, I'm always busy doing something. We have a page on Facebook called the Christmas Story Family, where, we jump in the VIP section. We jump in, we do chit chats, whatever. We sell autographed photos and posters, and sometimes there's BB guns in stock, which they will be next week. Good old Red Ryder, but I mean, we've had leg lambs, so we've all, it's all the products, it's all the merch. That's our residuals. That's really our residuals and royalties now are us getting off our tushes and going somewhere and schlepping the bags and going, oh, you want that to Jeff? Okay,
So you fans reach out to you a lot now still?
Oh yeah. I have a page on Facebook, Scott Schwartz actor. I tell people go there, on my Facebook, you can jump in. Okay, fine. And I do check it, every couple of days. Okay, fine.
Get some Mets for the sports program.
There have been Mets. I just, I talked to Piazza, a couple months ago. I mean, being who I was, as a child star, as they call it, it opened a lot of doors, and being with Richard Pryor opened a lot of doors. So it's like, I knew a lot of the Mets guys. I knew a few of the Yankee guys. I've been friends with Barry Bonds since 1988. Cecil Fielder, McGuire, I was friends with for years. Bonds I still talk to, here and there. We just get on the chit chat and what's going on and whatever. And I talk to his mom all the time. But it opened up so many avenues for me to do things that just people don't normally do. Been in locker rooms and clubhouses and done all the fun stuff and partied and gone, and spring trainings for years I went, so.
Where are you appearing next?
I'm going to be at Turf and Stuff. It's in north of Seattle, Billingham, Washington. I'll be there a week from now. I'll be there next weekend, or this weekend coming up, I should say. It's Monday, so I'll be there on Saturday. Then I'm in Daytona Beach. Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna pull the hold on. Here we go. You asked. And then let's see. Then I'm in Rochester, New York, at a shop. Then I'm in Daytona Beach for a meet and greet, movies and Italiano food. Then I'm in Alabama for a couple of days. Then I'm in Baltimore. Then I'm in Detroit, and then Toledo, Ohio. And then I'm in Phoenix at Asylum Records. I know that's right before Christmas. That's all. Not too many things.
No, but thank you again, and welcome back anytime. We'd love to have you.
Shoot me an email. Whatever. I don't care.
Thank you. Well, again, our guest has been Scott Schwartz, and I'm Jonathan Rosen, along with Ike Eisenmann, and this has been Pop Culture Retro. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe.
Be safe. Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Pop Culture Retro, where no one was hurt during the making of this podcast.